Welcome, everyone. We want to talk today for a few minutes about the coming Great Depression in preparation for our webinar, which will be on July 27, 2023 at
2:30 p.m. Eastern.
It'll be a wonderful Thursday. We hope that you join us. In preparation for that, some questions came in that we are looking forward to answering, and we'll be expounding upon these and much more when we get to the 27th of July.
Yeah. I've heard you recommend eliminating debt prior to the 2030s. It's particularly if you're in our demographic, being debt-free is golden, right? You don't want to go into the 2030s carrying debt, particularly if you are nearing retirement or in retirement. If you're in your 30s, that's a different story, but you want to carry minimum debt. Between now and then, you want to live under your means and you want to be building up a war chest. And we're not saying if you're 33, you have to have your mortgage paid off,
right.
But you don't want to go into the 30s with a whole lot of credit card debt, for instance.
Exactly so. And that's why we counsel people, a lot of reasons to buy a home, when to buy a home, but when interest rates are lower than they are today, and they will be, it's a great time to lock in the lowest rate you're likely to see for this decade so that you can have an affordable mortgage payment as you go into the Great Depression. Your wages will be going up, so even if you get a 10% cut in pay because things are really terrible, then you can still at least afford your mortgage. And so not all debt, as Brian was saying, but a lot of extraneous debt, you need to be careful. I've also heard that there will be a fair amount of unemployment. Yes, there will be a fair amount of unemployment.
I don't know if it'll be fair or not, but there will be a lot of it.
We're not talking 50% unemployment, and we're not even talking, I don't think, in my mind, we're not talking 25% unemployment, about 15 to 20% unemployment. Yes. Yeah. Which, by the way, will freak out the politicians, freak out the nation and the media.
Yeah, I think 15 maybe on, or 12 on the U3 side of things for an extended period of time. That's very painful, and maybe it'll be more like the up 18 to 20 on the U6 measure.
Yep.
And they're both okay gauges for what's going on out there. They both will be reflecting pain that's occurring out there.
That's right. The great question here, Brian, about where we would recommend that somebody park money if they're currently invested in owner-managed residential real estate. We're doing a lot of talking about that now amongst ourselves with Clark Bellin of Bellwether Wealth Advisors, who's our partner in the investment process. So send us an email on that, and we'd be happy to tell you what we're coming up with as we're going through that process. We have our ITR optimizer. There's a good reason to be thinking about as you go through the rest of this decade to ease out of the residential real estate market because prices are likely to fall, rents are likely to fall.
Well, there again, it depends, in my opinion, Alan. If it's multifamily and the cash flow is such that even at 40% vacancy, it's still cash flow positive, why not hold on to it and have that income coming in? If it's in a strong demographic area.
Well, I don't argue with that at all. 40%'s a
very tall bar.
Yeah, I mean, and when I've talked to people of late, just this last week, as a matter of fact, who own property, their big fear is that the federal government puts a moratorium of evictions in place.
Oh.
All of a sudden you're stuck with a lot of people who are...
Oh yeah, just like during COVID. Oh.
Yeah. COVID taught them to be afraid.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Wow. And
yeah, now you won't sleep tonight.
Once you do it, it's easy to do it again, right?
Right, exactly. So I invite you again, send us an email because we are working through that problem now, but in general, it's a good idea to start thinking about how you're going to shift. But just like the investment question that was asked earlier, where you are, what type of property, what the cash flow looks like, what's your debt structure look like, all have a play in answering that question.
Right. And if I were to be 10, 20 years younger than what we are, I would have no problem with selling a lot of those assets in 28, 29, 30, and taking the cash, making that cash work for me, and then go buy those hard assets again at the bottom.
Exactly.
Sell high, buy low, and not have all that attendant risk in between. I don't know that you can have a long-term buy-hold strategy going through something like we're envisioning for the 2030s. I just don't think it's probable.
That's exactly what I would do too. Even if not 20 years ago, if I as you know, I've divested of a lot of the real estate, but if I were still wanting to hold them through, I would not hold them going into the early part of the 2030s. I mean, the downturn part,
right?
2030s. Not what I would want to do.
As the Fed starts its next monetary loosening process to undo the effects of the current tightening in 2023, actually started in 22 and it's continuing here in 23. How do we protect the wealth created during this last business cycle throughout the rest of the 2020s as the dollar is devalued? Well, I think by devalued, maybe they're talking about loss of purchasing power.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Okay. Because I don't see the government actually devaluing the US dollar, but the purchasing power is going to continue to erode. You protect yourself, the best answer is by buying assets that perform well during inflation, outperform inflation, so that your after inflation wealth is actually good.
Right.
Like in the optimizer 50/50, it's up, 38% since inception, and compound inflation hasn't even come close to that. So you want to stay in those investments that are going to be outpacing inflation.
Exactly right. If you don't want to be with the optimizer, that's entirely up to you. That's fine. Ask your wealth advisor, all right, with inflation coming, how are you going to protect me? Make sure you get specific answers to that question. You don't want something vague like, oh yeah, we'll take care of that when it comes. Have a plan in place so that in 2025, when it starts building again, you're ready to implement and you know that you will be okay. Have them prove it to you that you, through testing and through history and through whatever mechanism they have, that their methodology will work in a period of inflation, because that's the best protection you have. Don't take somebody's word for it. Make sure that you ask the hard questions.
I'm thinking at the July webinar, Alan, why don't we we'll lay out our expectations for inflation like we did that last time, going into and then with that timeline laid out, then we can talk about some thinking points people should have or discussion points they should have with their own preferred financial plans.
I like that, and we have a few months to do that.
Yeah.
Excellent, good plan.
Okay, so join us on the 27th of July.
Thursday.
2:30.